All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pints and Politics. We got a special guest today. We got Sue Eck. And as always, I'm Drew, along with Mike Weiner. How you guys doing tonight?
We've been having fun.
Yeah.
Just getting started,
Yeah,
and
we
it's
just
been a good
ate.
Doing
evening.
great.
Running a little bit late, and
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to say it. We're going to have to redo this because there were some audio issues last week
Yep.
when we tried to sit down with Sue, and those darn bison.
Yeah.
That darn bison game got
Oh,
me.
here we go.
That's what happens with North Dakota. They're wild up there, like a herd of buffalo.
But in a good way, though. Tell us about your experience. So let me back up.
Yep.
Candidate for 14B,
St. Cloud.
east side of St. Cloud, running in a race that is flippable,
Oh,
that
yeah.
we need to flip
Absolutely.
to bring what again?
Balance.
Balance. That's right.
Balance.
Balance
Yeah.
back
Big
to
fan.
government.
That'd
That's
be
right.
great.
Well, one side of anything can be a problem. Too
Yeah.
much of one thing can be a problem. And you had a sit down with Joe
Suchere. Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
state fair. So tell us about that because most Minnesota knows about Garage Logic,
Huh.
and you got the chance to sit down with him at the state fair. Tell us about
Yeah, it was a real treat because over the years I've listened to him, and especially during the state fair because it's so entertaining. And I was contacted by, well, it's kind of a long story, but anyway, Rookie was kind of the middleman to schedule it. And so I had a day's notice, went there to the state fair with my nephew Andrew, and just had a blast. It was a short interview, but he's got this really cool set where it looks like he's on the front porch. And he was really nice, and we had a good chat. And right away he said, "Anybody here from St. Cloud?" And then he went through my lit piece and talked about some of the things that are on there that the Democrats have been doing that good conservatives don't like, and the crowd cheered. There were probably over 100 people in the audience.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
That's
it
awesome.
was great.
Cool.
Yeah. What was it last time I was at the state fair? I didn't get a whole vibe of people being super political, but
Um, well,
It can be,
it can
it
be.
can be.
yeah, because there's a big GFL booth and there's a big Republican booth, and
And this year, especially with presidential race.
Yep.
So I was
That's
at the
right.
fair the first day of the state fair.
oh, okay.
And it rained a little bit. So I was in the education building at the House of Representatives booth, and the amount of people that came in to get out of the rain, was
Oh,
a
sure.
There you
lot.
go.
And the Walls Harris pins were on a lot. But we had good conversations,
Huh?
with everybody that came up, and yeah, it was very political this year. And I believe that's, really has a lot to do with the presidential, but having Walls on the ticket in the
Oh,
state of
yeah.
Minnesota really changed the dynamics with
Yeah.
most of these races. And
Yeah.
are you seeing that in St. Cloud? Do you think that Walls is going to affect your race here in St. Cloud?
It's hard to predict. I think people are finally learning the truth about Walls. I don't think our Minnesota media has done a good job of accurately reporting about him and what he's done and not done. So I think the trickle-down effect eventually, if people are paying attention, could have a really positive effect on my race.
Yeah, I've noticed that there's a special spotlight on Minnesota now with Walls being
Yeah.
on the ticket, and it's good for us. It really is. But at the same time, it makes me sad because of how Minnesota's been run the past 2 years.
Right.
Which again is probably why we need that balance. Why we need somebody like Sue Eck and like Mike Weiner in office so we can have a balance. That way, the people can be properly represented.
Well, when the governor himself has called the folks out in greater Minnesota rocks and cows,
Cows.
such a
Right.
derogatory statement about literally half of the population in this state. And to think of him as the vice president, basically what that does is the flyover states, the middle part of our country, the heartland, is basically going to take that same role.
Yeah, well, it's
It'll be
just like
nothing but rocks and cows, and the
Yeah.
only place that's going to matter is the big cities.
it's just like Hillary Clinton. 8 years ago now, when she said they're all deplorables.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
the same.
basket of deplorables.
Yep, a basket.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
even worse. Now
Yeah.
we're just
That's
a
what she said.
basket.
We're just plunked in there.
Oh my
That's
Basket
goodness.
of deplorables.
Or just thinking about this, what did Obama say? Bitter clingers,
Oh yeah.
people that cling to their guns and their religion. So, I
Yeah.
mean, this is such an elitist mentality of the Democrats
It's true.
in this state. in the federal Democrats. And I wish people in greater Minnesota or even the whole of the United States would really look at that and analyze it, because you're looked down upon by the very leaders that put you into or that you put into office.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not only do we need to bring balance back, but we need to bring respect back to the
Oh, yeah.
voters and to really listen. I want to listen. When I talk to people, I say, be sure when I'm elected to let me know how I can help. And they're very happy to have that
Yeah.
invitation.
Yeah. And something else, I mean, just meeting with people, that goes a long way.
Yeah, it
Because
does. Yeah.
again, I think people, they yearn for that kind of respect from their leadership. So even just going up and saying, "Hi, my name is Sue," or Mike.
Hmm.
Like I can say for Mike specifically, I'm in his district. I'm one of his constituents. That I met him at the state fair when he was running 2 years ago, and I was like, that honestly, that right there was enough for me to vote for him. Also, we had a great conversation about guns and furries. Not in tandem; they're separate.
Two different issues.
Yep, two different issues. Don't put them together. But again, it was just really nice, and it was like, okay, so there are people who actually care about their communities.
Well,
Right.
and I think that's what's great about the breakdown of how the government works in the state of Minnesota. Your representatives, the people closest, or the government closest to the people is the best. So when you can meet your representative when they're outdoor knocking or at town halls, meet and greets, whatever it is, you can ask them those tough questions and get their viewpoints and get to know them. And that connection, I think, is incredibly strong. You do have on your information here something that I would love to hear more about. It said parents should have a greater say in the education of their children.
Yeah, I really feel like parents are being overlooked, and I have an appreciation for the homeschooling parents, even though I don't personally have any family who who do homeschooling. I just think putting myself in their shoes has got to be a huge sacrifice. I'm sure there's a sense of real freedom when kids go back to school and you don't have to deal with the chaos. So when you think about the sacrifice of homeschooling families, it's pretty profound and the work involved. So anyway, I just think parents need to have more input in their education of the children, and that they shouldn't have all these crazy liberal ideas pushed upon the kids without the parents knowing at least.
Yeah.
Well, and we've seen test scores.
Yeah.
When Walls became governor, I think we're fifth. Is that right? We were rated
Yeah.
as fifth as far as education in the state of Minnesota, and
In the
now
country.
in the country, and now we're at 19, if I remember, 19th. We have
Wow.
dropped that many points and Minnesota was always referred to as a high education state.
Yeah.
That took pride in high test scores and great involvement in the
Good
schools.
education.
Good education.
Which is
state.
ironic because Walls's background is in education.
It is in education.
Yeah.
And we see this a lot. Input, at the school boards. A lot of schools have actually done away with the PTAs. We do have
Oh,
school
really?
boards. Oh yeah, there's been a lot of changes over the years. And now I think COVID really brought to a lot of people's attention how education maybe hasn't fit what they thought was going on. And we
Sure.
see, the resurgence of parochial schools, charter schools, religious school, just different schooling options.
Yeah.
Homeschooling is one of them. It's been exploded across the state, across the nation, really.
Yeah. I door knocked a married couple who are both teachers, and it was interesting. At the end of it, she said, I'm going to tell my friends we finally have somebody who will listen to us.
Oh, that's great.
And they told me about some of the mandates that they had to deal with. And I right away thought it was from the school board. And she said, no, it's from the legislature. And I couldn't believe it. That's crazy because some of the mandates got down to how long a recess can be. And to me, I mean, even a school board mandating that seems far-fetched to me. It should be the culture of a community or the culture of a school itself, not from the legislature.
Well, now in St. Cloud, I'm not sure how many different school districts you have.
We have one in St. Cloud,
Just one?
742, yeah.
Okay, but how many different school sites that would be public education in your district? I mean, is Tech, Apollo, Cathedral isn't public, is it?
No.
Okay,
So two high schools that are public,
okay.
Tech and Apollo. And then Cathedral's is private, and St. John's Prep, which is outside of St. Cloud, but that's another private high school.
So even in the two schools, Tech and Apollo, those school districts are distinct. They have
Yes.
separate challenges, and this is something that, I can relate to. I was actually at the school board meeting in Long Prairie last night, dealing with issues to hear what was going on there, because I'd like to be informed. And knowing that the challenges that Long Prairie faces is entirely different from 8 miles north, which is Browerville School,
Wow.
because of the difference in demographics.
It's a different town entirely.
Right. So that's where those school boards and parents having, more input, and the schools having the flexibility. And I think that really relates to what you have here is parents have to have greater say in their kids' education, because there can be so many differences between two schools
Uh-huh.
in one side of town versus the other in St. Cloud. And don't we all want our kids to have the best education? I mean, that's what we strive for. That's what your taxes pay for. That's the expectation. And to find out that our numbers are sliding so quickly, and in just under Walls's,
Short term.
short term as governor, it's really
Do you think that goes
problematic.
back to the whole problem of lack of oversight in general related to our governor and our,
I think there's a lot of factors that would, go into this. We see changing of mandates, I think is huge in some of that stuff.
62, right? 62 mandates from the last session?
I believe that's accurate. I know
Yeah.
it was over 50,
I think
but
it's
now
62.
every one of those schools has got to deal with all of these different mandates, and some of them probably don't apply or wouldn't necessarily apply to each school district. But how is that enhancing or making the education better?
Yeah.
And that's where I have the issue. Because if we're spending money, if we're going to fully fund education, like it was talked about this last year, and yet what did we see? Now we have teachers across the state who are striking because none of that money trickled down to the teachers and to better the education. So much of it went into administration and the upper levels of education.
Yeah. It went to the bureaus and the administrators.
That's right, to the bureaucracy.
Yep.
And how does that affect the bottom line? Which the bottom line is the education of the kids. We want to have an educated workforce, educated people in our culture to make our culture better, and we're not getting that. So the next thing we have is safe communities. Now, St. Cloud, I'm sure everybody probably knows. I spent a lot of time in St. Cloud, lived here, met my wife here, started our family here, and at that time we said St. Cloud is no place to start a family. And we moved away. Now you've dealt with this. You're a lifelong resident, correct?
Pretty
Or
much
pretty close.
since 1968.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
How has the area changed in that amount of time?
Well, it's changed culturally. When I was growing up, we had about 60% Catholic in the community, and a lot of German Catholics actually who had immigrated in. The family history was part of the culture. And then now it's different. It's more metro. It's just it's a different culture now. So things are changing. We're transient. We have, our St. Cloud State, of course, it used to be bustling. There was a huge change in traffic when schools started, and now you can barely tell the difference. So it's just very different from when I grew up.
And St. Cloud State used to be kind of the crown jewel
Oh,
in
actually,
St. Cloud. I mean, it was, that was the school of choice. If you wanted to go to a state school, St. Cloud was well known. And now to see the slide, and I guess I can't verify these numbers, but I understand that they have a fiscal imbalance. I'll say they're
Yeah.
20 million in the hole
very,
from what I
very
hear.
tactful.
Yeah.
From what I hear, they're looking at cutting buildings and resources because they don't have enough students.
Literally demolishing two or three
demolishing buildings. Yeah, that's what
That's
I've heard.
rough.
Right.
I didn't know it was that bad.
It is. It is extremely bad. And to have such a good school for so long, and now to see that decline, that affects the whole community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
It
does.
really
Because
does.
the school draws people in from out of town.
Right.
And you need that kind of out of town trade. I'm gonna use that word in order to help grow financially, and then also grow in population. That's a big thing. Like Fargo, NDSU is growing that city. I don't back 10 years ago it was like 3 people a day, which is a lot. They're starting to slide too, kind of in the same way.
So how as a representative do you feel your voice, or what would you, besides the things that we have here, how would you use your voice to represent those people in St. Cloud that you've met, that you've door knocked with, that want you to be their voice? What would you do?
Well, I've been starting to ask them, what can I do? What's the one thing I can do to make Minnesota government better
Hmm.
at the doors? And that gets them really talking. And sometimes right away they say, well, less government.
Hmm.
And then they'll say fewer taxes, lower taxes. They come up with really quick answers. It's very interesting. One couple I talked to, the woman ended up with about 6 different ideas. But and I'm not just I'm and I walk up to them not necessarily knowing what their political affiliation is. I don't always pay attention to that on my app, but across the board, they want lower taxes because they need more spending money because prices have gone up.
Yeah.
And we also need to do more to help businesses so that they can flourish and in turn pay better wages and offer better benefits and retain employees for longer periods of time so there's more stability.
I mean, how many times have we said regulation kills us?
It does, yeah.
It absolutely does.
It does. I mean, you're a business owner, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I see is very metro-centric legislation.
Yes.
And I'm on the Economic Development Taxes committees. And when I see cities around the metro that want money from legislation to grow their, whether it's their industries in tech or med science or whatever it is. And I look at that and I go, why are we pulling money from taxpayers across the state to see? I'll just throw Brooklyn Park for an example. Why should we help their economic development when we have the workforces out here? We know that it's the cost of living is better in greater Minnesota. We have a workforce, and yet we're pulling jobs, we're pulling people to the metro when we should actually be growing greater Minnesota instead of pulling money to the metro.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity in greater Minnesota.
I believe
Just
there
got to
is.
realize it. Just got to invest in it.
And when you see those hubs like St. Cloud, which is a prime example, and that feeds a larger area. You know, this is the heart of the state right here.
Yeah, and also the students would be more apt to stay if they found
Sure.
St. Cloud appealing and
Yeah, if
a
they
place that
found it could be a spot to raise a family.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, so whatever I can do to make it better, I'm happy to listen.
Well, and I think that affordability that you talked about, when you're at the doors and you hear people say, we want less taxes, we
Yeah.
want less regulations. They basically just want to live their lives.
Yeah, and sometimes they'll say, I just wish we had a simpler life. And I can see their bodies change. They become more relaxed. They
Yes.
smile. And I think just that idea of more balance, a simpler life, I think it'll go a long way in helping people and also gaining some votes so they trust that I will do what I can to help them with that.
Yeah, that's great. People in the United States are very self-sufficient,
Yeah.
and they don't need Big Brother
No, that's
dictating
right.
all of their moves
That's right.
and in their lives. So,
Yeah, it's like
think that's
we're a very independent nation.
right.
Yeah, it's like we declared it one day.
So, and you have another interesting thing here, and we're going to hit this. You have $17.5 billion surplus, which always gets me fired up because that is an obscene amount of money.
It is.
It is, and that was one-time money. You have it on your information here. It's Democrats spend $17.5 billion surplus of our tax dollars in less than 5 months on pet projects instead of the $2,000 checks that they promised. And you're exactly right.
Yeah, because the Republicans tried to bring forth bills that would balance that out, right?
Right.
But there was a stopgap because the Democrats were in control and they didn't listen to the bills. They didn't get the bill hearing that was needed.
You're exactly right. Very knowledgeable. On the campaign trail, Governor Walz at that time said he was going to fight against Dr. Jensen and Matt Burke because they were saying we need to give money back to the people. And he said we're going to need to give $2,000 back to everybody in the state.
Yeah.
That's what Governor Walz said at
I
that time.
remember.
And
Yep.
when it was all said and done, what did everybody get back?
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
Not everyone.
$260 to some people.
And many of them got taxed on that
Oh, yeah.
$260.
Crazy.
Yep. So I had even had a bill that would have given $3,000 back
Ooh.
to everyone because that money was one-time money, and now it's being spent on long-term government growth.
Oh, that would have been amazing if that bill had gone through. Did it even get heard?
No, it had many signers.
Oh.
There was support
Jeez.
for it,
Yeah.
and the thing is, we could have taken the 3,000, given it back to the people,
Right.
and then still had enough money left over to pay for the bonding.
Right.
Instead of taking that money and putting it on bonding, long-term spending, you could have taken that extra money, paid for our bonding projects, and that money would have been better off in the hands of the taxpayers.
Yeah, well-
And I love what you have here, that money should have been back to the people.
Yeah, well, it's our money. Just like the 3,000 you had hoped to give back to us, that was our money to give back. So it makes sense.
So the other thing, and your flyer here has got me fired up because the money is a big issue, but the other thing is the $730 million
Luxury
Oh,
office.
the new
palace
office
to
building.
politicians.
Yeah, you know,
Oh.
that actually fires me up because you're destroying a perfectly good park. You know, you got
Yeah.
trees and grass, you got all this stuff that's good for the climate, allegedly. And like, I don't know, I'm kind of a hippie sometimes. I like trees, I like grass, I like being outside every once in a while. So we're destroying that and building again a luxury office building. I don't know how luxurious it's going to be, but it's what the minimum is like 700. Is it $730 million?
Yeah, who knows if that even includes the
And that's
furniture?
and that's the
The floor, they
Yeah.
call it.
yeah.
so the
it's-
bare
that's
minimum.
yeah
it
that's
can
the,
only go up from there.
Um,
And I keep saying, I bet by the time this is done, it'll be closer to $1 billion.
yep. So we're gonna waste $1 billion wrecking the climate in the cities, and then they're gonna use that. This is a prediction, it's a conspiracy of mine. They're gonna use that to push more climate change legislation because it's going up because they keep destroying nature.
Oh, jeez. Well, to further your agitation with these points,
Little
my
salt in the wound.
opponent,
Yeah.
my opponent voted for all of these things.
Right.
So my updated piece is going to say, welcome on, welcome on, welcome on. I mean, he did. He voted for all of these.
Absolutely.
And he's voting Metro, and we're not Metro, we're Central Minnesota. We're hardworking. We want to protect our tax dollars and protect our families and our kids and everything. And he's not doing that the way he votes.
And that's a great point, and I'll just reiterate that a little bit because we saw the Democrats had the House, the Senate, the governorship.
Yeah.
And when did any of their members say, you know what, this is a bad bill? Almost never. That was, and you're saying we need to bring that balance back.
Right.
They did not have any balance. They basically took every bill and they shoved it down our throat and didn't take our input. And you're saying we need to have a voice. We need to have everybody included. And I think that's great. I think that's something sorely lacking in politics right now. And you're right. Your opponent voted for all of those things. Instead of you getting back your $2,000, he said we're going to spend this on long-term government spending, which now we're looking at a financial deficit,
Yeah.
projected deficit by 2025.
Well, plus some of that money must be going towards illegal people having driver's licenses and
Oh, yeah.
health
'Cause
insurance.
that costs money.
all that.
Yeah.
So they're getting treated better than a lot of our seniors and our.
Aren't they getting housing too? Free
I,
housing?
There has been, I think Alpha News did a couple stories where there was in the metro, but up here, I don't think it's been too much of an issue.
but statewide.
But when you talk about seniors,
Yeah.
and that's something, the Social Security tax.
Oh, we got to get rid of that.
Got to get rid of that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
That was something that
That's
was
right.
promised to the seniors.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is that was actually a Reagan bill.
Was it
years
actually?
ago, right? So what happened was in the early 80s, and it was looking like because of the economic downturn in the 80s, they were going to, Social Security was going to go insolvent. So they taxed to try to balance this stuff. And now you have Democrats actually supporting Reagan bills. And most states have gotten rid of those Social Security taxes.
Yeah.
You pay tax on it once. There's no reason you should have to pay tax on it twice. They did cut it for some seniors, but what was said on the floor by Chair Gomez, the head of the tax committee, was we can't do this because we won't, or it would mess up our budget.
Uh,
Now that to me goes back to that elitism.
Yeah.
No care for the
for the common
seniors.
person.
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
That are living on fixed incomes. And when their inflation is driving their food cost up, med prices are going up and everything else, and they're saying, well, that messes up our budget. What about the taxpayers' budget?
Yeah.
That's that
Exactly.
elitism that I see in the Democrat Party, and they're supposed to be the party of the people, and your opponent voted for all of that.
Yep. And this kind of drives a joke I heard the other day. You know, when they're all worried about their budget, they'll take out the seniors and their social. The Democrat Party, they'll gladly give you the shirt off my back.
Yeah. That is a
That's
good
great.
Well, it's true though. It's true because that's what it is. Like we need more tax. We need to pull more money out of your paycheck so we can go fund pet projects. So for our budget because we got to go. We need a new office building because the one we have isn't good enough.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It does fire me up a little bit.
So, and this is, here we are in the state of Minnesota. We want that balance. We want
Yeah.
everybody's voice heard. And I thank you for running. It's not an easy thing to do. Obviously, there's challenges. It's a struggle. There's going to be a lot of money thrown at this race too. So I really want to point out if anybody across the state is watching this, we have to support those candidates that we can flip those seats. And this is one of those races that absolutely needs everybody's help. Show up. And the people in greater Minnesota, so, well, that's not our race. That's not our area or whatever. You have friends, you have family in the St. Cloud area. I guarantee it. Make sure they get out and vote.
Yep.
And anybody can donate to my campaign. That's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
point. There's this crazy program called the Political Contribution Refund Program, which we all
Oh, yeah.
call the PCR
Right.
program for short. And the the Democrats raised it to 75 a person or 150 per married couple that you can give to a candidate or a political party and get it all back
On the taxpayer dime.
on the taxpayer dime. But have to say, I'm taking
It's,
advantage of
yeah,
it.
you might as well, if it's there, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So I do have my reservations about the PCR.
Okay.
Yeah, but again,
I will say this though, when I see how the money plays in elections, and basically what happens is the voice of the people, because it's really tough to compete against that money.
Yeah.
When they can contribute to a candidate and have their voice heard, that money can help that candidate get across the line. It does kind of balance against the special interests.
Sure.
And that's one thing I wish all candidates in the state of Minnesota were only allowed to take money from the PCR fund.
Oh, interesting.
If you did it that way, now guess what? Your candidates are going to have to go talk to those people in their district
yeah,
and get that $75 from them. That would make the door knocking part of this.
that'd make things a lot more interesting.
It really
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
Get rid of the special interest money, get rid of the PACs, get rid of the lobbyists. I see the corrupting influence in money in politics. Put it back in the hands of the people.
Right, because I
Then
could
limit
only
how much.
imagine somebody as elitist as Tim Walz just coming down like, hi, in his red flannel, all fresh off the steam clean, like, hi, I'm Tim Walz, I'm one of you. Can I have money?
But if you're interested in donating to my campaign, just go to ekforhouse.com. So it's EKFOR house, ekforhouse.com. And there's a donate button on the website. And if you want to take advantage of the PCR, 75 per person, I'll get a receipt and a simple form to you with a thank you note. I have to have the money first, though. I can't send that without the money.
Yeah, you can't get a receipt without a payment.
That's right.
Yep.
So
And that return comes pretty quickly.
yeah, probably
Yeah.
about 10 days
Right.
to 2
It's
weeks.
not bad.
It's even quick. Have you used yours?
I think so. I don't know. It would have been a long time ago. My memory gets hazy
It's
sometimes.
once a year.
Okay, then no, I don't. Actually, I don't think I have them.
All right.
Okay.
How about you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I always do. But
Okay.
there again, and help out those candidates.
Yeah.
On the radio yesterday in Little Falls, yesterday or today, I don't remember which one it was, but your name was actually on there.
Oh, good.
So the upfront radio program, 960 AM, they talked about this. Our district, the central part of the state, is extremely red. What's the closest race that we can help out in? So they had said specifically your race.
Nice.
Get involved in Greater Minnesota. Help SUEC get across the finish line. Let's get. I was going to say something else, but let's get Dan Wogon out of here and get balance back into the government, into the House represented. This is our best chance to bring that balance back to the state and give the voice back to the rocks and cows.
Yep. That's awesome.
So yeah, and we do have. We'll get that. Hopefully, Ethan can put that on there so people can donate to Sue's campaign.
That'd be great.
And if there is phone calling, door knocking, if you want to come down, help Sue do some door knocking on the weekends or whenever. I'm sure she's got some events scheduled. Come on down and help out that candidate. This is the best thing we can do. And then make sure you vote.
Well, yeah, election day is coming up, so be ready for it.
So we should talk a little bit about early voting. It
Yes.
starts September 20th, but that's a time of voting where you have to mail it in. So I recommend, if possible, waiting until at least October 18th when you can physically put the ballot in the machine yourself.
Yeah, that's the best way to
So
have
for the
ballot
optimal
security.
safety, wait until then. But if you can't do it, if you're going to be out of state
Right.
for whatever reason, then for sure get it done.
Yeah.
Starting September 20th.
It is so critical in so
It
many
is.
of these races. Got to get that ballot in. We know that almost 300,000 Republicans across Greater Minnesota never turned out to vote 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We should have
It's
had
ridiculous.
a Republican governor. We should have had a Republican Senate.
Could have had, yeah.
We could have had
Yeah.
a Republican House. We could have had a trifecta the other way, and then you would have seen that balance in the
Yeah.
state of Minnesota.
And one of the perks of voting early is that your name will be taken off mailing lists, call
Yeah.
lists. You'll be free of all the.
Yeah, so if
Pestering.
you're getting messages all the time, you vote early, it'll be done.
It'll be done because we all want to save money.
That's funny.
Well, that's good. I
Yeah.
think we've covered a lot of the stuff that you have here.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sitting down with us again.
I appreciate it very much. I think
help-
there was more meat to this
This one, went-
session.
this
Yeah.
one really.
Plus, it's
well.
always a good time.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always have fun. Mike,
I
where are we
nearly
today?
Forgot.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I was waiting. I was waiting on it.
We are at HR Pesties
In Wade Park.
in Wade Park. So thank you very much for opening up your
Yeah.
doors to us. I love when we get to go to a different establishment. It's been a lot of years since I was at HR Pesties, so this is
So
it's like
still
coming back
hopping?
home. It's a lot the same. I
Yeah,
think
we're-
I almost
we're-
recognized a person or two
Yeah, we're in
upstairs.
the basement because it's so rowdy upstairs.
Yeah.
No, it's a good place, good food.
Right.
And actually, one of the things I love about doing this, I don't think I've said this before, is that when we go out to different bars and different places, we get to experience the community as well.
Yeah.
Like the food, the culture, just be a part of it. And I don't know if you guys haven't been watching us too long. Mike and I love promoting community and culture and tradition. And as we always say, food and drink bring people together. And we're big on that. But is there
So if
anything
you
else?
get the chance, come on down to your local watering hole. Hopefully, we'll catch up with you sometime, like we
Yeah.
caught up with Sue here today. So
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
I really
Any last
appreciate it,
parting words?
guys. No, I'm just grateful.
Okay.
Vote, get out and vote and help financially if you can.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you.
thank you guys so much for watching. Special guest Sue Eck, got Representative Mike Weiner, and Drew Peterson. Thank you guys so much for watching Pints and Politics. God bless.